Hey, I'm Cameron with Full Screen Graphics, and I'm going to do a little video tutorial for you today. Uh, what we're going to be focusing on actually is the Planes logo from Disney's Planes, the movie. I thought it had a kind of interesting look, and actually I thought it was a little bit of a challenge making this particular look in Illustrator with the chrome going, with these chrome pieces. I thought that would be interesting, and it has a few other things that caught my eye in particular. Something I thought that was perfect for a video tutorial to be done in Illustrator. So this is the original Planes logo, and I'm going to make something a little bit different, but I feel like it still captures the essence. Let me show you what I'm going to go ahead and making for you. This is what I call the wings logo. So it has all the basic elements, etc. I will go ahead and let you know that this is live editable text you can change on the fly. So in case I wanted to, I don't know, spell S right, wings right. So it is editable on the fly, which is one thing I do like about it. So I'm gonna bring that back to Z. So let's go ahead and get started. I think the first thing really to do is make this background part. Usually when you're making something that has layers, you start with the back and then you build forward. So I think the very first step is to go ahead and just trace this shape here, this silhouette of the wings here. So I already have a new layer. Don't believe it has anything, so I'm just gonna start by bringing down the guides that I'm gonna use, and I'm gonna put a guide at every intricate or part of this image here. So if you don't already have your rulers up, just press Ctrl R, which will show or hide your rulers, and go ahead and pull down a guide. If you don't have your guides visible, which as you can see I don't, just go ahead and put down Control semicolon. And since I was just doing this video, it shows that I've already put down most of the guides already. So let me just go ahead and put down finishing touching guides here. One guide here and one guide here. Now as you can see, I put a guide here. That's where this point is. A guide here at the top of this. A guide at the bottom of this here. You can kind of imagine, if you've ever used Illustrator and used the pen tool, these are kind of where I'm going to put my points when I go ahead and make this outline of this shape. And I've only done this half of it because this is a symmetrical object. I'm only going to make half and then flip it over. I don't need to go around the whole object. So I feel like I've got all the parts where I'm going to go ahead and make points. And now I'm going to go ahead and pull out my pen tool, and I'm going to start making my line. And I'm going to wait for each one to say intersect, so I know that I am getting that little point there. Now, if you just saw that, I'm pretty sure you noticed that, hey, these parts right here, they are curved and not straight lines. That's because most people, especially if they're new to Illustrator, probably aren't too good with using the pen tool to go ahead and make curves. And neither am I. That's why I'm going to go ahead and use the reshape tool here in Illustrator, which if you can't see it, it's behind the scale tool. So you have the scale tool, you have the shear tool, then the shape tool. So if you just click and hold down, you will get these options available to you. So I'm going to choose the reshape tool, and what that does is that you, after you've made the different points, line segments, you can then hover over the segment of the line that you want to go ahead and curve and bend, and just pull it out. And you can make most shapes that you want to make this way. And this is very important when I first found this tool out, because if you've come from Flash, which I actually used Flash first, this is the way I made a lot of my shapes. I did a lot of my animation shapes and characters. I would do the bending line tool, which is built in. You don't need the actual tool. So it looks like I've got that going on there. Let me just hide that. See what I'm looking at here. Yeah, I've got the curves, got the wing pattern, and that's it for that part. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and multiply this or reflect it. All right, so I'm going to right click on it, go to transform, reflect. All right, looks like I don't have everything selected quite right. Let me go ahead and press cancel. I'm gonna click off. I think I only have certain points selected, and now let me go right click, transform, reflect, and I'm gonna do vertical, 90. All these options, of course, would be okay. And I'm gonna press copy. Not okay, I'm gonna press copy because I want to keep my original. All right. Now I'm gonna go ahead and click one of the points, and then I'm gonna wait till it says intersect here, and that way they should both be plopped right on top of each other. But let me zoom in to make sure that they actually are. Yep, looks like they're plopped on top of each other, the points from the top and the bottom. But if they aren't, if your guides aren't snapped or they're not snapping the way you want them to, just get them relatively close, then go Control Alt J, and that is what you call average. So you select those points using the direct select tool, select those points, then you want to average them out by doing Control Alt J, which is, then go ahead and press OK. Then we're going to zoom out. I'm going to zoom into the top area here. Whoops. Control 0. Gonna go Control Alt J, both. And now I'm just gonna Control J, bring them together, and Control J. So I'm select the points, and now I'm just Control J, which will, after they've been averaged out, so that means they're laying directly on top of each other. I'm turning those 2 points into 1 to connect the object together. Alright, so you can see I just pulled that out to show you that they are now connected. Pull this out, you can see that they are now connected. Alright, so we've already got the silhouette going on here. Now let's see, let's go back to our original image just to see what we got to do next. Alright, let me zoom in on this here. Alright, so it looks like we got a kind of a red background going on here that goes from bright red to dark red, and then that's our next move. Looks like we'll actually just select those colors. I'll use the colors directly from the image here. So I'll grab my eyedropper tool, and I'm gonna press Shift and then click. Take and drag that into the swatches panel. Then I'm going to shift click over here and take that into the swatches panel. Let me hide that. Now I'm going to go ahead and bring those into a gradient. One gradient piece, the other gradient piece. Now I'm going to go ahead and turn this into a radial gradient, and right now it's set to the stroke, so I'm going to switch that around to flip it. Let me widen out my tools here so you can see everything I've got here. Switch that there, and it's almost already what we need here, but if you look at the image closely, you'll see that it's not really like a circle gradient here. It's more darker here and kind of dark here. It's almost more of an oval, so I'm gonna give it a little bit more of an oval shape. I'm gonna pull out my gradient tool, just G, and let's see here, and I never let the shape of the gradient actually be smaller than the shape of the whole object. I always pull that out. I just think it looks a lot cleaner and a lot nicer when you go ahead and do that. So also I believe it's a little darker at the bottom, maybe more oval like, more, yeah, there you go, just like that. Now I'm gonna go ahead and hide the guides because I feel like I don't need those right now. Looks like we've already got quite a bit already. What's the next step? Well, let's look at the original image. Looks like we've got this crease of lines, and then we have these bolts. Let's zoom in so you can see that a little bit better. Got a crease, then we got these bolts. Now the way I figured I'd go ahead and do that crease was to actually make a brush that went ahead and made those creases. And let me show you exactly what that brush looks like. This is kind of zoomed in, but this was 1 pixel wide, and then just a little square that I made. I grabbed the not the ellipsis. I grabbed the rectangle tool, and I made a little square. Just 1 by 1, and I made each one. I made this one. I made these 1, 2, 3 are black, but what is different about them is that they have different opacity set to them. So the first one is 20, second one is 80, this one's 30, and this one is a 90. All right. So this is supposed to be what it looks like when you when you look closely at a crease. So this is it's going down into the crease. This is the bottom of the crease. This is going up from the crease, and this is the highlight, the little highlight that you get on a crease. So just something that you kind of see that going on there. You see that goes down, then you have like a slightly lighter thing going on there. So if you want to do that, so each one 1 pixel wide or 1 point wide, depending on how your settings are, then you take it, you click, drag right into the brushes. You click art brush, okay. Now depending on which way your line is going, in my case it's already going down, and it usually automatically selects the way you need to go, but if it's not, just go ahead and make sure you're choosing the length of your stroke here. All this staying the same, fixed 100, stretch stroke to length. None of this matters, none of this should affect anything. Press OK. Alright, so now that we do that, I want to go ahead and make a line here. Let me look at the area that the line was at here. So yeah, so it's right here, and now I'm going to go ahead and make that line. Just using a regular line tool, nothing special. And now I'm going to go ahead and select the brush that I made, and I'm on the wrong layer. Let me just move that up to the top layer. Alright, and there's the brush that I went ahead and made. Now it's not really blending in too much right now, so what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to change the transparency on that and turn it to, I'm going to have to scroll through these a little bit because I'm not sure exactly which one I used, but I think it might have been overlay. Yes, overlay. Alright, so you can see how I'm getting that effect there where it's getting a little bit darker, a little bit brighter, and it looks a little like what's going on there too. Alright, so now I need to make the bolts. So I have the crease going on here. Let me put it a little bit closer. It's time for me to go to the next step and make the bolts. Alright, now these bolts, they're somewhat 3D. They kind of go out a little bit. So my answer to that is to just make a 3D object, which is totally doable in Illustrator. This is not the way I first did it, but I think I'm going to make a change here. I can tell that these bolts, they go over and down a little bit, so, and they're basically circle. So what I'm going to do here, this is going to be on the fly right now. I haven't rehearsed this. Maybe I'll use the rectangle tool. And I'm trying to imagine seeing the piece from the side. All right. And right now I have that stroke for the brush selected, so I'm gonna go ahead and reset that to black and white. So I'm gonna add a point here. Now I'm going to grab my, I'm gonna grab my grab point here. And then I'm going to grab my reshape tool, bring this up. Now I'm going to delete this and delete, oh no, not that point. I need to add another point. Actually, I'll just bring this point this way till it snaps to the right point. So now it's also a red button, so let me color it red. And I'm going to remove the stroke and just leave it. Actually, let me not make it red just yet, because if I do, it might be a little hard for you to see. I'm going to make it green. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Effect. Let's see here. Revolve. 3D. Revolve. Let's turn on the preview. Well, looky here. Kind of like a little bolt thingy. So let's flip that so it's facing us. 0, 0, 0. Alright, so that's the side. Actually, you know what? Let me bring this on screen so you can see here. I actually use a double monitor. So I'm just going to flip this so that it faces us. Right there. So you keep everything else at 0, 360. And in my case, it's from the left edge. 0 perspective. We don't need any of that. And I guess plastic shading is fine for this. Gonna press OK. Now this is actually too huge, which is fine for right now because we can just resize it. Let's go ahead and make this red like it should be. Oh, a little bolt there. We got one already. Looks pretty clean, looks really nice. I'm gonna bring it down to size. Get a little bit bigger. Alright, well, that's a little different than what they had already, but these small detail part, not important. But it's nice to go ahead and throw them in, you know? So, what we're going to do now is, you cannot make a brush with a 3D revolved object. Last time I checked, you'll get this type of problem. It'll act like you can, but then when I press scatter brush and make scatter brush, bam, the selected artwork contains elements that cannot be used in a scatter brush, which is a few elements that can't, and a 3D revolved object is one of those. So what I need to do is I'm actually going to make a copy of this, and then I'm going to take this original and then I'm going to go to Object, Expand Appearance. And once I expand that appearance, it's now just a bunch of shapes. And I'm going to show you what's actually going to get a problem again when I drag this in, but just to show you that even now I'm still going to have the problem, but it's a different problem because you cannot have clipping mask. So when it creates these shapes, it creates a clipping mask. So let me go to Object, Clipping Mask, Release. So now that clipping mask is gone, even though you can't see it or anything, now that the clipping mask is gone, now I can finally bring it in to make my scatter brush. But I'm actually going to copy this over, hold Alt and copy it over, because I just realized that there's bolts on both sides. So let's do, and they're not aligned either. So, whoops, I accidentally pressed Windows button. And they're not aligned either. So this one's a little bit higher, this one's a little bit, this one's lower, this one's higher. So now I'm going to go ahead and drag both of them in. make a scatter brush. Okay. Let's look at the options here. All this is gonna stay fine, except for the spacing. The spacing is gonna be, I think I tested this earlier, it was about 170. But we'll find out right now. Because these bolts, they're not gonna touch each other, they're not gonna line up. If you put it at 100, then that means that they're right next to each other. So I think maybe it was like 150. Let's go with 150 and we'll adjust it later if there's a problem. Alright, so we just made a new bolt piece, a new scatter brush. And now we're going to add that in to our line here. So let's go ahead and hide that, bring back our old piece, see what we've got that we've made. So these two guys I can move over here. Now if you're not familiar with the appearance panel is very important. So just to show you, that's the appearance panel. And right now I've got a stroke. The stroke with the art brush, the little crease that we made. But I want to add a new one, so let me add to a new stroke. And this one, which follows the same line that I've already made, is going to be a little different. I'm going to choose a particular brush, a style of brush, which is just the one we just made. It's a scatter brush. And as you can see, it's already started to make these bolts or welts. But I do have one problem, is that right now the whole object is set to overlay, which is not what I want. I'm going to set the whole object to normal. And I only want this particular stroke, the first stroke, to be in overlay mode. Alright. So we've got these little bolts, we've got that going on there. Let me just see here. Maybe these are supposed to be a little bit closer, so 150 was too wide. I can double click on my bolts that I made and take it down from 150 to, let's say, 130. Apply the strokes. Still might be a little too far away, so let's bring that down even more. Let's say 115. Apply the strokes. It seems even still, so yeah, let me do this one more time. How about 105? And if it's still wrong, I just give up. I don't have time. So there we go. I'm gonna take these, cut them. I'm gonna make a new layer. Call it assets. It's what I do with stuff that I don't plan on using. I put them on this layer and I cut them and I just paste them on this layer. And then I set them on the side here. Look like we lost our crease here. What happened? Okay, this is supposed to be, I might have made a mistake and changed something here. Okay, so this one's supposed to be the brush, the regular stroke brush, and this one's the scatter brush. There you go. So it looks, one last touch. I'm pretty sure you noticed that, hey, this line is going outside. These pieces are going outside of the space we have here is going right outside of the red area. Well, that's fine, because we're going to use something that I really loved when they added this into Illustrator, because it makes things just so much simpler. I'm going to cut, Control X, then we're going to switch modes. We're going to switch to the draw inside mode. Now you see we got these dashed lines showing that we're going to, if we put something in here, it's going to go right inside. So I do Control Shift V, which is paste in place, and now those objects, I'll move that out of the way, are now inside of here. So you can let me switch back to normal mode, so we're not drawing inside anymore. Adjust those, get them looking right. Yeah, so you can adjust the line till you get the bolts where you want them. Alright. There's actually two, so I'm going to double click, which is going to let me go inside. Click this one to drag it over to about the same spot. And I'm going to flip it around so it changes the side that crease is on. Then this is where I'm going to stop for the video. For the first part of the video, this is where I'm going to go ahead and stop. I feel like we've made a lot of progress here. We've got the background set, and the next part of the video is going to be pretty cut forward and dry. Though it's going to have a little complex part, which is going to take up some time, and I don't want to make like an hour-long video. So let me just stop here and leave it at that. So go ahead and watch the next video. That's it. Peace.